See, Sister Louise.
Thank you, Brother Eric. And I'd like to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Brother Eric. So I always look forward to your creative presentations. I do want to welcome everybody here this evening, and I know they're probably as excited as I am, knowing you all these weeks, to see what you have under your sleeve and what exciting video, audio, whatever we're going to see. But I have to admit that I've been mulling over the topic for days now. The theme for the month is expressions of gratitude. And I was not here last week. I was out of town, but I know that Michelle probably did a wonderful job with, was it Carmen last week? I think it was.
Carmen, it was wonderful.
Yes, right. And I did manage to see a piece of video and it was beautiful. And that was pretty clear. But tonight's topic has me going in circles in my mind, realizing appreciation. And the first thing I'm thinking of is realizing appreciation. Is appreciation synonymous with gratitude? And right away, I'm suspicious that Brother Eric, and I do not know what he's going to do for us, but I strongly suspect that we're going to get into appreciation on a different level than the obvious. A beautiful spring day, a 70-degree day in New York when yesterday was 50 degrees. Mother Nature in all her beauty. To realize appreciation has something to do, I think, and we'll find out if I'm on the right track here as the evening progresses. Realization has something to do with an appreciation that's deeply embedded in my attitude and how I view life. And I know Sister Mohini often uses the expression, we need to have an attitude of gratitude. And it seems to me that when things don't go my way, I need to find something to be appreciative of and not take for granted the wonderful journey inward that I can have in not only appreciating others, but finding that appreciation within myself. And that to me is the realization, the reality that I can create when even the world seems to be not giving me cause to be grateful. So let's see what Brother Eric is going to do for us tonight. I just want to remind you that Brother Eric is one of our directors here at the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual Organization. And he's also one of our BK representatives to the UN, along with our guest next week, Gayatri Narain. And he's a member of the NGO Committee on the Freedom of Religion of Belief and the Religious NGOs, non-governmental organizations. He's also on the board of directors for the Long Island Multi-Faith Forum. And he's been a practitioner of Raja Yoga meditation for over 40 years and an active teacher here. And I'm very happy to say that he was one of my teachers when I was originally taking the course and beyond a few years ago. So he's extremely experienced in not only meditation, but in instructing. And he's one of the deepest thinkers I know. And he's a wonderful retreat facilitator. Now, before his retirement, Eric served as a civil engineer in property loss management with General Electric and other big corporations. And so without further ado, I would like to stop talking and introduce beautiful Brother Erik Larson. Good evening, Om Shanti, and thank you for making the trip in front of the camera this week for us.
It's a long way to come. So
Right.
Thank you, Louise. Happy to be here with the camera on. I kind of focus on other things, and my button to turn on the camera works, and this is a, I don't know what they call it in Zoom, but you're welcome to also use your camera button. It's one of those things. We've had some issues over the Zoom history of our insights, and so sometimes we I've kind of blocked the cameras. But
thank you, Flavian. Yeah. Anyone else would like to join us? It would be so lovely to see faces. Yeah. Hi, Maria. Thank you. Also, before you go any further, I'd like to know what the policy is this evening for the Q&A. Will participants be able to speak, or what are we doing this evening?
If they can formulate their question as they listen, then somewhere along the line, we'll open up the chat. And if we have a cooperative group, we might be able to talk, but we'll see how it goes. We only have about an hour. So the chat is not open for everybody right now, but I think you can talk if there's an issue of sound or whatever it's going to be. So.
Okay. So I'll take my cue from you. Okay.
Thank you.
So you're the boss.
I will hope to share a few things to get us to think. And I'm not sure if I will tell you the ultimate secrets of the universe, but a chance to look at the world a little different is kind of what I'm hoping to allow us to experience. Oh. And there are two kind of bullet points, if you want, that wanted to kind of guide the presentation. And one of those is that we live in a world that we really don't understand. Okay, so no matter what you think and how comfortable you are, we really don't understand our world and most of it. And the other item that I want to see if I can get towards is that we come from a world where we know perfection. And expressions of gratitude is the theme for the month. And Sister Carmen did something wonderful last week, and everybody enjoyed that. And I hope those that heard the meditation were feeling in a grateful space now also. And I didn't want to duplicate, so how could I kind of come in with another perspective? And so this realizing appreciation is that we actually can only start to have gratitude or appreciate when we understand kind of how things work. And one of the first experiences for me was about money. And growing up, you don't, either you have it or you don't have it, but you don't really know about money until you kind of start to see what others have. Because oftentimes you are happy as a kid. I had blocks as my main toy. They were just pieces of wood, and they were great. And there was an article one time about the best toys for kids, and I don't think I'll remember all of them, but one was water, one was sand, one was a box, one was a stick, and could have been, something like that. But those are the best toys to have because you can do anything you want with them. And so kids, can enjoy, they're using their inner world is an expression with those. It's not kind limited by something expensive or fancy or pre-done. You can do all sorts of things with a stick where you can't with a ready-made toy. Anyway, so we kind of come into a place of not knowing about things and their cost and money and such like that. But I got a job when I was in high school. Okay, I worked summers, cutting grass and all sorts of things. And I learned the value of money. I didn't know it before. And so I started to appreciate it after I realized what was necessary for it to come. And it was an amazing experience for me. And this is a while ago, but I started working for $1.65 an hour. That was the minimum wage in a grocery store. And I remember, I was a saver, having $100 in cash in my hands. And I thought, oh my gosh, look at this. And I was pretty amazed because it was probably, 82 weeks of work for me. But I was part-time, so it was probably a month saving up all that stuff. Working part-time, grocery store, all that stuff. But having that, I appreciated the value of money once I realized what it took to get it. Before that, you know, if it just all comes to you, there is no appreciation. It's just, this is how it should be. This is what I want. And so having that opportunity to learn that was great for me, because then I could figure out that things aren't just going to come to me, that things do take some work in the world to take care of it. And so there was an appreciation only after I realized what the system was, how that worked out. You know, and a variety of things happened, but I got a job. My background was engineering, and I got a job in Chicago. I was from the Midwest, and I went to school in the Midwest and worked there, and didn't know what I wanted to do. Still never figured that out. And you can kind of get through life not knowing big questions anyway. But I got a job, and my job was to go to different places each day, industries, buildings, whatever it is, because I worked for a large insurance company, and pretty much talk to them and see what they did and tell them that if they burned the place down or they blew it up, that would not be good for their business, theirs or ours. Okay. And pretty much everybody would agree with me with that. And so they would, you know, try to follow, and I would kind of be a thorn in their side. And, you know, I try to get out as soon as possible. I always, I still get amazed when I think about those times, because I worked from home, you know, that was remote working. I worked in the field. I thought it was great. It was kind of lonely if you were looking for company. But I remember that we had to call into our office twice a week. And I had a boss who wasn't the best organized. And so I would call in Tuesdays and Thursdays from a payphone. We didn't have cell phones or anything like that. Calling from a payphone. I'd call at lunch when he was away, and just leave a message, checking in, everything's fine with me, and whatever it would be. So I could go a long time just on my own. And that was kind of the environment. And so I'd go into these places to see what they did and learn what it is. And kind of coming back to the theme of tonight, that realizing what goes into the world that we live in. And I want to do a little machine meditation here for you, because one of the things, this was Chicago, and this was a time before everything was shipped to Mexico or to China. And so there was lots of manufacturing. And there would be times when you would just kind of be transfixed by what you would see. And I want to show you something. It's called a CNC machine. It makes springs. And so I want you just to engage in what you're going to see and watch how springs are made, if I can share the screen. So hang on. You might be able to see part of a machine here, okay?
Yes, we can see it.
It's about 2 minutes long, and it's going to start slow, and then it's going to go full speed. So hang on, and it's a meditation on machinery. This is at slow speed, so you can see exactly what it's doing. variety of different springs. Now it's going full speed. So different video than you might typically expect. But the reason I wanted to show you that is that how many of you have ever thought about a spring? Really, you know, it's just a cheap little piece of metal, typically, that maybe we need, and they're all sorts of different springs, but they're just something that's, oh yeah, let me get another one, here's something else. But as I've gone through my work and a variety of different things, I'll just use work for the example. The individuals who can create a machine to move things in a certain way, all those moving parts, to come out with something, and then they just spit those out. It's when you see a whole floor of machines like that operating, it's mesmerizing. It was for me. Just look at this. And so I learned a lot of how things were made, how the world was put together. And that was a realization. I had never thought about a number of things. And having that exposure made me very appreciative. I mean, somebody was able to build a machine that makes those parts that kind of I had never ever thought about before. And the whole world is all of that. I mean, I think a car's got 30,000 some parts, and somebody's making them, somebody's made the machine to make those parts. And so when we start to learn about our world, we can only then really appreciate it. We can have gratitude because we understand what goes into something. You know, if you always have everything given to you or provided for you, there's no gratitude. That's just how it is. That's how it should be. And that's okay too. But for me to have experience in the world and to see things, I truly appreciate. Some of my favorite people who I don't know are packaging engineers. And you know how great they are because anytime you get something in the mail, it could be a box full of whatever. I've ordered olive oil in the mail, and it comes wrapped in bubble wrap and other packaging and things. And then I'll take it out of the box and I can't even get all the packaging back in the box. Okay. There's so many different, minds and that have kind of come together to make the plastic, to make the bottle, to make the olive oil, to ship that, to send that. I mean, I'm always in this sense that we're living in a world of miracles. It's just amazing to think that I can put a piece of paper into a box and a couple days later, it's across the country in the hands of someone that I know. It's when you realize what is going on, for me anyway, there's that great appreciation where if you don't, you just assume that it's going to happen. I'll tell one of my favorite other there's a number of these, but kind of, I never ever thought of that, is that I grew up and we would have sometimes Jello for dessert. Sometimes we would have fruit in Jello, that was dessert. We would have carrots in Jello, and that was the salad. Just once in a while, you know, that was kind of how it came. It was very, very Midwestern. You know, that's how that was created. But I had the chance, I worked for Philip Morris. That was one of my accounts, and saw how cigarettes were made, and saw how gelatin was made. And Jello had one place, one manufacturing site in Massachusetts, outside of Boston somewhere, I forget where. But that's all they made. They made the gelatin that goes in the Jello. So our job was to make sure it didn't burn down, because you wouldn't get Jello if it did. And that was a key part of it. But if you know anything about gelatin, which I didn't, you know, kind of understand these things, it's basically a coagulant. It holds things together, and it's a protein. And so basically you're trying to get these chemicals, these particles, proteins, and the easiest and the best way is from animals. And so this factory would receive bones and scrap and animal parts, and they'd get, you know, a lot of it, skin, gristle, all that stuff that, you know, was no good. It was the basis of protein. And so shortly they would take it and grind it and bathe it in acid, and they'd chemically separate it, and then they would dry it and process it. And that would be gelatin. And that would be how, you know, things hold together. Color and water, and it makes Jello. Okay. And so quite fascinating to know that and understand that there's a process of the elements, whether it's the carbon or the fats or whatever they are, they have a nature, and they go through transition, and then they change. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But what was amazing to me is that the same place made kosher gelatin.
Yeah.
And the kosher gelatin, and there might have been a little difference. Yeah, sorry. But kosher gelatin is the same thing, except a rabbi has come in and says, this is far enough away from its source, it is now something else. And then we'd get a blessing or something, and there would be. And what's fascinating is that's correct, because in the backyard of Harmony House, and I can show you it, we dig a hole in the fall, a deep hole, and we throw the kitchen scraps, not the cooked food, but the raw things. So we recycle it, and we throw it in the garden. There's carrots, and I think I saw a pineapple top in there. There'll be potato peels, you know, the greens from things that cabbage are thrown away and such, and all that'll go into the recycle composting hole in the backyard. And then we'll cover it with some dirt, and when, you know, we kind of layer it. It's kind of a compost lasagna, if you want to think of something like that. And that's kind of, you know, not real nice stuff. But when we go through the winter, somehow it's been transformed into nutrients. And so somewhere along the line, that has transformed from potato and carrot and pineapple into nitrogen or whatever it breaks down into. And somewhere along the line, it's no longer what it was. And so having that awareness, having that realization that everything goes through a process, when would I recognize that, you know, the animal is no longer animal, that it is something else, and that something else is beneficial
Mhm.
because that is something now that maybe I'm taking in through a process, but it is no longer what it was. And so understanding that cycle of how things get reused and recycled and kind of go through a process of change, there was great appreciation. There's a gratitude and understanding how things are made and where they come from. And that just allows me to understand more of the physical world that I'm in, that we're in. And, there's a quote from somebody, but, I discovered this because I stood on the shoulders of giants, okay? And how much accumulated knowledge we use constantly. And that was kind of the point, that is that we don't know how things are made. We don't know how things are actually done. Somebody might know something, but nobody knows everything. And so there's this realization and appreciation for everybody who's got a part, everybody who does something, and everything is valuable. And so not only what I'm doing, oh, I'm great, I'm doing this is something, but everybody's doing something great. Everybody's doing wonderful. It's necessary for us right now, in this context, in this time, to have that appreciation, to recognize I add something, but so does everybody else. And you can't make a machine, you can't make the food, you can't do anything all by yourself anymore. It's really hard to do that. Those were the skills that my grandparents would have had, and their parents would have had, great grandparents, how to live out in the middle of the countryside and survive on your own. No, I don't think this is the group that I would rely on for self-sufficiency, living in Long Island or wherever, And so that would be a start of what I wanted to offer, that we don't know everything. We have this sense of working together. And when we realize that, then all of a sudden appreciation grows. There is this sense that, yeah, I'm in a connected world and I need everybody. I might not like everybody, but I need everybody. And that other element, that when we're young, we don't question these things. We don't know where these things are. We just kind of want our desires to be met. I want this, I want that. And without any idea of what that desire is, the consequences of that are, what was necessary to make that, to fulfill that. And that brings me to one of the lessons that I have learned. And it kind of takes me into a deep appreciation of who I am and how I fit into the world, and more not on the physical realm, but on the spiritual realm, because we do have this sense of expecting things to be good. It should work. The train should come on time. The food should be cooked the way I like it. We have this sense of this is just how the world should work. Everything should work fine. And I think last week there was the comment nicely said that Sister Carmen, we have a negativity bias, that we expect things to be this way. And so when they're not, they kind of stand out. Okay. And the reference was a flight, I believe. The most memorable flight is usually one that's not great, because we expect it to be nice. And when it is, it's unspectacular. The fact that we're up in the air, flying through the air, sitting in a chair is a miracle, but that's not how we typically see it. We say, oh, this one talked to me, or there was a kid back there, or whatever. And so that we've got this sense that things should be good or perfect. And have that concept that we compare things. What is good? What is good is relative compared to what? And the example as I like to use is temperature. today was 65. I don't know. And yesterday or whenever it was near 30, 40, something like that. And 65 is a number. And if I asked you all, is 65 degrees hot or cold? You would have an answer. You would offer, oh gosh, it's so warm. Or you might say, oh, it's so cold. Went to India one time and it was 30 degrees there, freezing Fahrenheit. And was talking to some from the Caribbean. And they had these, thin clothes, and they said, so cold, so cold, so cold. It's 60 degrees colder here than where I come from. And they were in the Caribbean. And then there was another brother from Canada, and he says, oh my gosh, it's so warm. It's 60 degrees warmer here than where I'm back in Canada. So there was a huge spread. So freezing 30 was relative. For some it was warm, and for some it was cold. And so anytime we use good or warm, it's a relative term. And the example is our mothers. And some of you might have had what you would call a good mother, and some of you might have what you might refer to as a less good mother. And there's ups and downs and things like this. And it's not the point to kind of bring back your relationship with your mother into this, except if you ever said something like that. My mom is good, my mom is not so good. It's quite curious because you had one. And in order to say good, bad, hot, cold, it's a relationship. So that means that somehow, some way, you are carrying an experience of perfect mother, which means you've had that experience before, which means that it is not based only on this life, this birth, this person, this relationship, but that we all carry within inside of us a feeling of perfection. We know what perfect mother is, we know what perfect father is, we know what perfect friend is, and you can't have that in just one birth or on a physical level. And so that sense of realizing that maybe there's more to me than just my existence on the physical level, spring making and all sorts of stuff like that, that there's another dimension, there's another element. And most of you, I believe, would know that we talk about the spiritual self, the soul, and that inside of us, we carry around perfection. We have a relationship from someone, somewhere, somehow, that tells us what is there. And when we come into the world, that's just what we expect. We expect perfection because that's our nature. That's who we are. That's our relationship that we have. And so we kind of learn that maybe it doesn't always work out that way. And that when we are engaging in our lives, when we are going through things and things don't work out, we're kind of surprised. After a while, we get jaded and used to it. And, okay, this is just how it is. But that sense that I carry around what is possible, what is perfect, what is best, however you might want to describe that, that's the nature of the soul. That's the nature of all of us. And so that also kind of comes into that experience for me of when I realize that, then I can truly appreciate it, because now I'm more self-aware. I'm aware of who I am, and I'm aware that I have more access to how I want to be and how I can be. And I'm very thankful and appreciative of that knowledge so that I can do something with it.
Yeah.
When I recognize those things, then I can start to influence my life. And that's what my meditation is about. What are the thoughts that I want to have? What are the experiences that I want to create? And now I can use that realization and create and have that appreciation And so it's an understanding that, has to come through our lives. And some people would never have it. Things just going to work out for them. I've got, some acquaintances in my life, and everything, they were born into a nice family and things have worked out well for them, and not really in a dramatic sense challenged. And they're why should they be? Everything is okay. And so they haven't explored too much the inner world. They haven't questioned so much about things because they haven't realized that there could be something else. And so there isn't much appreciation. It's not that they are arrogant or, bad people by any means, very nice. But there is something that hasn't clicked. They haven't seen the same things that I'm going to say I have. And that understanding of knowing how the world works brings an appreciation. Knowing how I work, that I'm a spiritual being, that I have this relationship of perfection, that I carry that around and actually measure things in the world, measure people, measure other things, other relationships. And then all of a sudden, when I understand that, I can change that, and I can address that, and I can let go of the things that take me away from gratitude and appreciation, and I can start to live in a world of great wonder. There are springs. Oh my gosh, what goes into that? There is food. The commentary before 7 o'clock. There's a very nice one. Just, do you have food? Do you have a bed? Do you have any of these things? And can you really understand what it takes in the world now to have that and appreciate that? And then realize that awareness of self and know that there's a spiritual part of ourselves, and start to realize and appreciate that. And so going to pause at this time. And then if there was comments or questions or responses, first going to turn to you, Louise. I know sometimes that your intellect gets sparked on a number of...
Yes, I mean, how can we not? I'm sure, yes, I want to invite anyone to make any comments they wish to, but my head is spinning. First of all, I caught myself on video with my mouth open. Totally. Tell me if I have any cavities, anyone. Watching the spring making. Just fascinated. And when you said meditate on it, it was just...
And those machines, you could stand there and just watch them. They're mesmerizing, and just
mesmerizing.
To another world.
It's quite meditative, truly. And I'm so just fascinated by the springs. I'm still like with the springs. The whole idea of people going through life being victims or not understanding that they have a choice to realize their own appreciation of the world, even when things are disappointing. I know that when I was a young mother and my children would say, "That's not fair." As they got older, I said, "Well, wait a minute. How did you know?" No, life's not fair. It's not fair. There are things that happen that I don't want to happen. But as I've gotten older, you're talking about an inner power. If I'm hearing you right, you're talking about the world of miracles being kind of an inner body thing. I mean, just as my body knows what to do like a well-oiled machine, and I'll get as base as elimination, to give it a colorful word. I mean, it's amazing what we turn things into in our own bodies. And you're talking about nourishment and how we take that for granted until we get sick, until we feel nauseated, until we are running a fever. And we have this idea of appreciation because we're forced into it. So it's kind of a cousin to what I think you were talking about having to understand the workings of things in order to fully appreciate and realize what's going on and how we all fit together. But I think that when we talk about the world disappointing us, the big secret I've learned right here from people like you, from Brahmins, is that it's my responsibility to maintain my joy and appreciation, even when the world does present certain scenes that I think didn't go my way. And that's the beauty, that's the power that I think you were talking about. Am I correct? You're talking about the conversion.
Yeah. It's something has to happen in our lives for us to, in a way, wake up and understand exactly what the dynamics are that make things happen. And it's possible that that wouldn't happen. That many people don't know how plastic is made or how glass is made or how food is grown, or I have no idea how these roses get such long straight stems. Somehow, I mean, the amount of things we don't know but we take for granted. Oh, this rose isn't very straight. We want our roses to be a certain way. We want things because we have this picture in our mind of how it should be, and that's fine. That's okay. But once we realize something, we have a different, we're forced into a different perspective of that. And oftentimes that comes for appreciation. And, that was a big, light bulb for me. I was doing okay. But then when I realized, the lessons here that you're not a body, you're a soul, you're a spiritual being, you have these qualities, it's like, wow, now I can truly appreciate how to use my life and what I can do with that knowledge. And so knowledge about ourselves on all levels, for me, just brings in that, this is pleasant, this is wonderful for me just to bask in that feeling of understanding rather than a feeling of not knowing, which is okay too.
Yeah. Or fear.
If you know how things work, then you're empowered. If you don't, and something's there, then your mind can go away and fear will grow in.
Yeah. And the future thinking, the what ifs, and getting lost in worry. And that's where the spirituality comes in, because I'll speak for myself. I know that when anything happens, I no longer play the victim role. I will shift right into, there's a lesson in here for me. There's something to learn. There's karmic accounts or whatever. There's reasons for this. Nothing is aimless. Nothing is chaos to me anymore. And that's a tremendously consoling thing. And it is predicated on the belief in a power greater than myself that can restore me to sanity at any time if I go to it. And I think, you've lifted this conversation into that realm that I kind of knew you would. We're not just talking about physics here. We're not just talking about machinery. We're talking about the workings of the mind and its capability to not just say, oh, I can't help that, and I'm the victim of that. And that's what I am projecting onto it as I listen to you, because it's a beautiful thing to turn a negative into a positive. And it can be done in such small ways. If I can just, I just came back from 3-hour and 40-minute delays, one at Kennedy, getting to California, and one coming home. And it was horrible. And it was midnight, which made it 3 o'clock in New York. We get in at 8, and we lost a whole day sleeping. The day was just out of my life. We woke up and had dinner. So in order not to be a victim of that and feel really horrible, what did we do? We played a game. We played a game in the airport. We had power in playing the game together. We helped each other. We laughed.
Good. You play tag?
What's that?
Did you play tag?
No, we didn't play tag. We played Rummy Cube. We carried it in our little, just in case we were late out. We had these horror stories. But you know, you take action, right? It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling to be able to take control of the uncontrollable, is what I'm trying to say.
It's because you brought those cards that the plane stopped so you could play it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is just beautiful. I would love to hear if anyone in the audience has something to say. Can we allow them to speak? Anyone want to? What are we doing here? Okay. Tara has said, inside of us, we carry perfection. This awareness influences our life. It's a beautiful, beautiful truth to us here. Yes. Hi, Sherry. What do you think? We need to unmute. You need to unmute yourself if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I clicked on that so we can hear those on in the audience tonight. They have to unmute themselves now.
Okay.
If they want.
If you want, Sherry. Anyone? I'm looking at Sherry. Okay.
Okay.
Anyone?
Now I'm unmuted, right? Okay. I'm grateful that I didn't get blown away in yet another hurricane or
you're in Florida.
These wind events and rain events, not to be in fear all the time. You know, that's always a good challenge. How can I, as you said, how can I go with this flow instead of fighting it? Because when I start to hear the wind and I'm like, uh-oh, here it comes. And then I say, I can't count the raindrops anymore because I'm a little stressed, and I go back to Baba. And I thought to myself, this is another opportunity to be of service to nature and tell nature, the elements, thank you, and give them drishti. I didn't know what else to do, because it is really scary when you hear all that, and yet nothing happened. The tree didn't fall on my house. Everything's cool. You know, it is a matter of appreciation, and that, no, I'm not some storm victim again and again and again. It happens because this is where I live. But yeah, it's I did lose some sleep. I lost some sleep over that, just because I was trying to do Amrit Villa and all of that. And I was able to do it somewhat, but it was definitely a challenge. So great. I appreciate the topic and how you presented that, Erik.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. Beautiful. Anyone else want to comment? Don't be shy.
It's Judy Bordiansky. May I speak?
Oh, hi, Judy. Of course.
Hello. Hi.
Nice to hear you.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here with you all. I love the topic. I love the insights and the generosity and kindness of having that shared. I think, among other thoughts, one that especially arises for me fairly daily is how much is invisible. And when I encounter my brothers and sisters during the day, just on the smallest of levels, I have no idea of what that day has included for them. I don't know how they slept. I don't know how their body is feeling. I don't know what they ate, how well they digested it. I don't know what happened with their family. Everything that goes in for people simply to show up, you know, on a given day really impresses me. And when somebody speaks and shares their experience and their you know, their wisdom, everything that has, all of the effort that has been required for people to, appear, prepare, and share. Just, I'm so glad that I have that awareness. I'm not saying I have it, without fail, but I do have it. And, I was a teacher of little ones, and many times I do reflect back, and I hope, that I did a very fine job. I like to think that. That said, I wish I had this wisdom at that time, and also this acute sensitivity to what I just spoke of, about everything that goes into anybody showing up. And so I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Yes, Judy.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Yeah. We're all sitting here right now thinking, and we're turning silence into productivity, and we're creating individually, and we're sharing, and we're benefiting each other. And when you look at the miracle of the capacity we have as a human species to do that, and then you take it one step higher, having a strong belief in God, in a spiritual life where there's no such thing as I can't. There's no such thing, because we know that we're indestructible, that the physical body is not the be all and the end all. I find that to be such a gift, and so eradicating any feelings I have of real fear that I may have grown up with. So I just feel so privileged to be part of this discussion, to be part of these Thursday evenings, that we join together and we help each other. And we have people like you, Brother Erik, who have incredible videos sometimes and insights and ways of looking at the world that are not common. I think that's what I just love about your brain, and I loved it as a student, that you present the uncommon to us. And for that, I want to personally thank you, because you've been a wonderful teacher, a wonderful instrument of the truth for me.
One of the things that I hope everybody does is looks at the experiences that they've had in their life and can use those and kind of layer on the spiritual perspective on those things. Because a lot of the things, are mundane or routine, or some would say drudgery or such like that. And they can be, if that's the attitude or the awareness or the mindset that one has. And so it's, as you did on your trip, as I've done at work, as we kind of all do, shifting perspectives, changing our attitude, and looking at things in a way that, the foundation of this month has gratitude and appreciation and understanding as a part of it. I believe everything can be, understood. I'm going to give another example. Harmony House has a great backyard, lots of trees in front, on the side, in the back. And all those leaves that were in the trees are on the ground. And so sometimes it's a little mess. And we've had some wonderful weather last Saturday. And so I went out with a rake and a wheelbarrow. And what that gives me a chance to do is I get some exercise, I get some fresh air, and I get to watch the neighbors. Okay. And I get to watch the neighbors and how they, kind of are engaged in their lives. Some are just, with headphones on and oblivious. Others are, lucky to be outside, some of the elderly, and they're just kind of, and some will say hello, some kind of look, and it's like, oh, here's someone who's just raking leaves, that's not for me. And it's quite fascinating because I have no agenda, but it's just kind of fun to have something to do and to be in a situation that I choose to enjoy. And I think that's a big part of this month, the gratitude and appreciation and such, is how do we teach ourselves? How can we focus ourselves to enjoy whatever's going on? Truly, whatever our circumstances are, and not to compare it to the perfection that we carry inside, but to bring out that spiritual experience and awareness and qualities and express it and have it come from us into the world, rather than think that the world should create it for us and that that's the experience that we desire and demand and expect.
Yeah.
Quite fascinating.
Yeah, it's a whole different meaning of perfection. One is self-critical, can be judgmental of others and oneself. And I find when I let go of that and I realize, for example, I just went to visit grandchildren in California. I may not agree with my son's values. I may not agree with the materialism, but I had the privilege of walking in with one role: to love all my children, my son, his children, my daughter-in-law. And you know what happened? The family member I was with was contagious, because it was like giving other people permission to relax all that comparative ego stuff and just love a child. And the children are not babies. They're 14 and 16. I'm showing my age. I also remember minimum wage at $1.25, Eric. So
Okay,
I'm a lot older than you are, I guess. But the children, everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to, you know, they cry when you leave. They don't cry because you give them money. They're crying because they're going to miss you. My heart was so full of having done wonderful work and not doing what I might have done 30 years ago, which is criticize anybody else's values or judge, you know? So that's a great tool. And I like to bring that to our audience, because I think people come here because they want tools. You know, it's very hard to get rid of your upbringing, your childhood, the comparisons, the judgments, but it is possible. It really is possible. If not, as Sherry said, consistent, it is possible. We have such power, and you've brought that power here. Big light bulb tonight, Eric. Thank you.
Well, we're going to finish if it's okay.
Oh my goodness, look at that. It's 7:59. I apologize for taking too long to speak. You got an idea for us?
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna share the springs again. And is there anything that you need to say to everybody?
Me? Oh, just that next week we have Sister Gayatri, as I said, in continuing with this theme. And she is going to, I wrote it down, I'll find it. Anyway, I'm sure that it's going to be a wonderful, enlightening time for all of us. Yes. Okay. And I think that's it. What are we doing Thanksgiving weekend? Are we meeting, or have we gotten that far?
We are wishing everybody a great day, and hope everybody has someone to be with, and that they will choose to have an appreciative attitude, but there will not be an insight on Thanksgiving Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And would you be kind enough to surprise us with some nice little tidbit to take us out?
We're going to go back and mesmerize yourself with the springs. So
The springs.
hope this will be wonderful.
Okay, thank you. He's not kidding. Faster, faster.
Be patient. Showing you all the moving parts.
It's eerily human.
night, everyone.
Thank you, Brother Eric. Amazing. You do not disappoint.
Take care.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
See you next week.